and I am based in the World Bank in Washington, D.C., and I lead a global program that's called Solutions for Youth Employment. It's based in the jobs group of the Social Protection and Jobs Global Practice in the World Bank. It's a global partnership, brings together about 30, 40 private large companies, most of them technology companies, about 45 NGOs, each one of them doing something very interesting all over the world, young people themselves, and also a large number of May I request everyone to please mute themselves? Could I request you? I think there's we may have to call out your name. Yeah, thank you. So just a quick word on S4YE. It also internally within the bank pulls together a large number of operational teams because the youth employment agenda is spread across the World Bank and different global practices, including agriculture, our social global practice, digital development, education, social protection and jobs. All of them have an interest in the youth employment agenda. So it's about 150 operations of the bank that come together. And then we have a steering committee that also includes several donors and foundations, etc. So our focus is on innovation, and our focus is very much on solutions and on the practical aspects of designing successful youth employment programs. So I'm really delighted that you've all joined us today. This session today, we have co-designed it and co-hosted it with our global EdTech team, which is based in the education global practice. So I'm delighted that we are able to do this together. Okay, so today's session, I'll just give you a quick recap of what we want to do today. What we want to do today is really to get into this issue of low bandwidth. Now with COVID, and maybe I'll share a couple of slides if you give me a minute. So as COVID hit us, a lot of youth employment programs, education programs, schools, colleges, higher education institutions have quickly tried to adapt to this new normal and have tried to pivot to online and blended learning models. Now, all that's great because it does make sure that learning and training and working with youth, whether it's through skills or even mentoring youth, is quickly pivoting and is quickly resilient and adapting to the new situation. But there's a risk here. And the risk is that the existing digital divide that we see in the world can actually further exacerbate inequalities in the labor market. So how people access jobs, how people access training, how people access education, just even basic education. If everything is going to move to online, then what about people who don't have access to the internet, who are in rural areas, disconnected? They're already vulnerable. And if we are going to move all our learning and we are going to provide all youth employment services in an online way, then are we going to leave them behind even more? That's the question. Now, of course, in the long term, the solution is that we need to expand access to bandwidth, to broadband, right? I mean, that's the solution. But that's a slightly medium to long-term solution. But what do we do immediately? The low-hanging fruit is to say, okay, let me pivot let me quickly adapt to this new normal and provide, and whoever can joins. But I think the risk there is that we will further leave behind people who are in any case left behind. So unless programs are absolutely intentional about finding solutions to connect people who are in low bandwidth areas, we really run the risk of further marginalized populations. So as we were talking to some of our partners and having these discussions about how they've adapted to COVID, a lot of them said, yes, we have moved towards more online and blended models, but this is what we are doing to particularly reach people in low bandwidth areas. And as we started these discussions, we found that some of our partners are really using some really innovative ideas. And so we've curated some of those ideas, 5 of them, in a short brief that we launched a few weeks ago. And it's some contents of that brief note that we circulated to all of you that we want to discuss here today. So I don't have to say more. I already said that this is the risk that we run. In particular, the solutions that we are finding as we are discussing with our colleagues and our partners is that the solution will depend from place to place, and what exactly you are trying to deliver will be both determined by the kind of bandwidth you have in that area, but also the level of immediacy. Immediacy means how quickly do you want that feedback or interaction between the trainer and the trainee, or the student and the teacher? Do you want an immediate response? If you want an immediate response, which means you really want high immediacy, then you have high bandwidth, then video conference works well, right? But if there's low immediacy and you want, and you also are in an area of low bandwidth, then maybe text messages. And a lot of our partners are using text messages actually very creatively. All of this I will not go into detail. It is in our brief. I encourage you all to have a look at it. And we're looking at different solutions. For example, in absolutely disconnected areas, perhaps radio, SMS. SMS allows you to put things in really bite-sized, really short learning prompts. Multimedia compression, where you could compress a particular module and allow a person to download it later, or pre-recorded videos where perhaps you can download to a hard drive later when you have sufficient bandwidth, or you go to a certain area and then download it. And then mobile apps and websites. These are some of the ways you can adapt to sort of varying levels of bandwidth that you have. So in this brief, we shared 5 solutions that some of our partners were using. And of course, the first one is just offline downloading, just the ability to download. And we share in this brief an example of a World Bank initiative, which has about 30 million educational resources, which is curated from 2,000 websites. You can download all of that on your hard drive. So that's an example. The second is a really low-cost hardware solution that's called Raspberry Pi. It's really, think of it like creating a small sort of a microcomputer out of just free an SD card, a USB phone charger. You just need a monitor and a keyboard, but you are able to really use it as a microcomputer. Number 3 and number 4 are solutions that 2 of our partners have used, and I will not talk about them because I would love to hear them. They are here with us today, and they will share exactly what they did and how they designed their program to particularly reach people in low bandwidth areas. And the last one is also a creative idea. It's really using ad hoc networks. The idea is that you really use wireless technology, but you provide asynchronous digital connectivity. So it's really about transmitting data from point to point between kiosks and portable storage devices, which are called maps, mobile access points, a map. So you really put a map-enabled, let's say, a bus, and that bus drives close to a village, let's say once a day. And it enables the kiosk to quickly download the content. Just once a day, a bus drives by your village, which is enabled with a map. It allows is enough for that village to be able to then download and upload content. More of this in our note. We've described how you can do this in actual case studies. You might be interested in having a look. It's available on our website. We also shared this brief in the meeting invite, so you might, you could easily go back and have a look at it if you want details. Okay, enough from me. I am really delighted today that we have 4 really wonderful speakers. Monica Caminiti, and I'm probably going to stop sharing so that you can, yes. So Monica Caminiti is the director of Save the Children, and she leads their Skills to Succeed program. And Atik Chowdhury, also from Skills to Succeed program in Save the Children, but he leads a particular example that we would love to hear from in Bangladesh. Jocelyn Williams, who is director of Everyone Mobile, And then Iñaki Sanchez, who works with the World Bank's Global EdTech team, is also here with us. So I request all of you to keep yourselves muted while the speakers are speaking, please. But please feel free to use the chat function and put in your comments and questions. And with that, I invite Monica to kick us off. Welcome, Monica.
Yes, thank you, Namita, for the introduction. And it's a pleasure for us to be here with you today, and we're humbled to be able to share some of our experience with all of you. So myself and my colleague Atik are going to tell you a little bit about the Mobile Training Center, which is one of the solutions that Save the Children is using to really help to close the digital divide for marginalized youth. So next slide, please. So before we deep dive into what the Mobile Training Center is, how it's used, and some of our early learnings, we just want to give you a little bit of the context of where the Mobile Training Unit sits. Because in and of itself, the Mobile Training Center is not a program, but it's rather a part of a larger program. So we can move forward 2 slides, I think. Thank you. So this is just the agenda to let you know that we're going to talk about the Mobile Training Center, but first we're going to give you a little bit of an introduction. So next slide, please. Perfect. So the Mobile Training Center is part of the Skills to Succeed program, which is a youth employment program that is focused on providing youth with the skills, opportunities, and networks they need to find decent jobs. The program has been around for about 10 years, and I would say that in the last 3 to 5 years, we have really focused on preparing youth for the jobs of the future. Our focus is to work with marginalized and vulnerable populations, and we focus on digital skilling, STEM, and really a high focus on technology. Since 2011, we have trained about 160,000 youth in 8 countries. And a big part of what we do is to actually place them in jobs. So we have placed about 60% of them in paid apprenticeships, employment, or we have helped them start their own businesses. And we do this with a large series of partners, including governments, employers, schools, and NGO partners. So next slide, please. So within the Skills to Succeed program, a very particular case is our program in Bangladesh, which is the program where the Mobile Training Center sits in. Since I say that this program is special because since very early on, they decided to work exclusively with out-of-school youth, and they focused on placing them in the ICT and BPO sectors, because these 2 sectors are among the fastest growing economic sectors in Bangladesh. They have been very successful at this, and they have placed around 17,000 youth in jobs in the ICT and BPO. So since very early on, the Bangladesh program was experimenting with models to bring training closer to marginalized communities. So they had this idea of moving their vocational training to different parts of the community so that youth could have access to the training. But fast forward 3-4 years, and when they started focusing on training youth in ICT skills, and we had to, because of bandwidth constraint and availability of internet, we had to bring our training to fixed training centers, and the youth had to come to us. So next slide, please. So some of the learnings of the program in Bangladesh is that in order for youth to advance in the ICT sector, that they really need to be able to be continuous learners because the technology leaps forward at such a fast pace that whatever we were teaching them today might be different or obsolete tomorrow when they need. So for them to be able to continue working and growing in this sector, they needed to become continuous learners. So we decided to expand our program to include very young adolescents, and we're helping them build their digital skills, growth mindset, and social emotional skills at an earlier age, so they can continuously learn they can adapt and be ready to take advantage of educational opportunities in the future of work. So this is a program that we started recently, and what we realized very quickly is that if we wanted to train youth in digital skills, we had to use either our training centers, but we also know that younger adolescents have very little access to internet at home, and also they have, it's more difficult for them to come to the training center because they need to be accompanied by parents. So within this context, and because of the need of reaching these youth at their location, the idea of the mobile training center was born. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Atik to tell you more about the mobile training center.
So thank you. So now I'm describing about the mobile training center that is operating in Bangladesh in one city, Chittagong City Corporation. So this is mobile training center is actually a bus, a training center or a learning center for 10 to 14 years children who are dropped out from education. So what is in the bus? We actually try to make it in a training center modalities. That is, it is equipped with 15 laptop computers. We have arranged internet connections with the national reputed internet service providing telecommunications. And what this bus would do actually, it moves around the communities, vulnerable communities, when the training has been finished. So this is about the bus that we have made a training center for the most vulnerable children who are dropped out from the education. The most important question is why we are using these as a mobile training center, because we see that 10 to 14-year children who are dropped out from the education, some are working some are involved in work. There are some participation barrier always happens in the digital training, meaning that when we are going out from these vulnerable communities or the slums to a training center, we see that there are barriers happening in the participation. There is a cost involved with this. There is a safety, especially for the female children, as well as there is a time for covering the distance. So what our modality is that why don't we go to their community at the doorsteps so that digital divide can be removed and they can have a training or update digital skills training at their doorsteps. So this is the part that we feel that it is important. So we take the digital skills at their doorsteps so the participation barrier could be removed. Now, what is this? How we are doing this? The training modalities in the community in the van. The first thing is that it is in the van, but you need to go for a good community mobilization in these slum areas or vulnerable areas, and we do awareness raising sessions, meeting with the parents, meeting with that community stakeholders, as well as the youth in those areas. And what is happening in the training center in the mobile bus? We provide 24 hours digital skills training, mainly covering of 5 domains, the basic digital skills, as well as the collaboration, communication skills, as well as how they behave in the communication platform, in the social media, what is the risk here, and how they can protect that. And at the same time, besides the digital skills training, we provide 24 hours socio-emotional learning and growth mindset training, which is very common in the life skills modalities, that is about self-efficacy, self-management, then higher order thinking skills, relationship skills, this is. And the bus stops there from morning and ends there and come out from that community up to evening, depending on the training calendars, 5 days a week. There are 4 shifts, 3 teachers are involved in one buses to provide this training. Now, training modalities is flexible because as there are school dropout children as well as working children, so they can finish the training within 1.5 months or within 3 months, depending on their availability in the training center. Now, what we are doing in the COVID-19 pandemic situation, first one thing is that due to social distancing, the target reduced half, as well as the mask, sanitization, social distance, open air in the bus, in fresh air. Teaching methodology adjusted to avoid close contact. As there are some group work, there are some soft skills games in the involved, so it can be done in the, it is happening in the open places. So after every shifts, equipments and furniture are disinfected in that way, so that we can do this. We can maintain all the COVID precautions in a better way. Now, what is working well? Working well, so far we see that we started it for several months, and we see that the participation that we discussed, that due to distance and other reasons, those participations we can ensure in a better way, in a very good way, as the bus enters into their doorsteps. Community support and the engagement through community mobilization, as well as the community's enthusiasm, we actually see that community participation is very much involved in taking care even the plan. Training contents, what we do, that we provide the digital skills training as well as the soft skills trainings, and 1 by 1 hour digital skills and 1 hour soft skills. So these combinations, we find it very good or well managed, that children are moving their thoughts in different both the ways. Training modalities that we discussed, that online and offline modalities, we are working with this, but also we are facing challenges. One challenge is that when we talk about the marginalized children, we provide the digital skills training, but they do not have access internet or the devices in their home for their practice. So the training modalities or the designs, we need to take care of very intensively, that this is the place where they can actually get the learnings properly. Another thing is that when we are talking about the dropout children, but when we are inviting or admitting working children, it also requires more attention than we expect earlier, that the session, the speed, the discussion takes longer more than that we expected earlier. So our initial learning is that we see that the engagement of the most vulnerable adolescents, that is 10 to 14-year school working children, dropout children, their engagement is much better when we actually go to their doorsteps. And we so far in Chittagong City Corporation, we have currently operating 2 communities in the slums, as well as we see that community mobilization through the awareness raising session first, and then we see that it is good for community engagement, also helps for the quality deliverable of the training. As we started from February, 60 children completed this socio-emotional learning, growth mindset, and digital skills training, and we cover another 60 is in the training. We have a robust monitoring and evaluation in system to measure the changes. We do the baseline, and L-line will be conducted later on to assess their skills acquisition. Now, what is our initial learnings? Initial learnings is that when we actually develop these buses, and you see that we, in the picture, that we need to build these buses to accommodate the classrooms. When this bus stops in the community, we see that the high enthusiasm happens in the community as well with the parents and the children. It helps us a lot to provide the training. And out of school adolescents, yes, they get easy access through these modalities, mobile van modalities, combination of soft and technical skills that we discussed, that games, group work, then digital skills going together, it is more fruitful or effective, we see that for the children 10 to 14 years. And finally, another initial learning is that when you enter into the bus with this mobile van, our target is 10 to 14, but many above 14 years children also interested to participate this training. So our future thinking is to expansion the training in other target groups. So this is all from my part. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Atik. You can see that the there are already lots of interests and questions for you. We'll hold the questions till the end, but let's move to our next speaker. Jocelyn, you're connected, right? Jocelyn Williams is from Everyone Mobile, and maybe Jocelyn, you can just do a quick intro about Everyone Mobile, maybe if people don't know about it.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll just share my screen, which hopefully you can all, oops. There we go. Hopefully that's come up okay. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share a little bit about the work that we're doing today. Yes, I will start with a brief overview just about Everyone Mobile. Then I'll talk practically about how we engage youth in low bandwidth areas. And then I'll just wrap up with the results of a few of our youth-focused projects. So at Everyone Mobile, we empower people in low-income communities to improve their quality of life using the mobile phone that they already own. We work with funders like the UK government, Unilever, MasterCard, PSI, the UN, and others. We've implemented programs across 20 African and Asian countries, across a wide range of thematic areas, and in a wide range of languages. We create sites in various different languages, but the screenshots of our platform you'll see today, we've just put in English. We also run live demonstrations of our platforms that show what the end users see and experience, but for the sake of time today, I'll just be showing you screenshots. So in our work with young people, we create youth-facing, low-bandwidth digital platforms that help them to commit to positive behaviors that improve their quality of life across a wide range of thematic areas, from sexual and reproductive health to economic empowerment and employment. We recognize that knowledge is only the first step to driving change in young people's lives, and it needs to be accompanied by improved confidence, ability, systems, and tools. So when we create digital solutions, we create digital tools that engage young people across all these areas, providing with the knowledge, the confidence, motivation, and the tools they need for productivity and for economic empowerment. Here's an overview of some of the tools on our platform that we're going to dig into more throughout this presentation. Just to highlight, our platform recognizes the device that you're using and then tailors the view accordingly, whether that's a desktop or, as here you can see, smartphones and internet-enabled feature phones. In terms of the sorts of knowledge tools that we create, these can be things like interactive learning journeys that build vocational capabilities, or expert content from local businesses explaining what they look for in employees. In terms of confidence tools, these can be things like peer learning discussions among young people about how to prepare for a job interview, or how they can search out job opportunities in their local area. In terms of motivation tools, these can be things like habit-forming financial savings trackers, or young people reporting back their actions that they've taken, like applying for a job, or even linking young people to employment opportunities and employers themselves. So now I'll dig into how we engage with youth in low bandwidth environments. We design a range of digital solutions, and each solution will be tailored according to the need and the digital technology available to the target group. But one approach that we have often found is effective is mobile accessible websites, which we've found often balances the need for accessible digital solutions with the need for technology that is sophisticated enough to be able to remotely deliver tailored, interactive, engaging messaging that actually drives real-world change. So the Everyone Mobile platform uses technology that's often designed only for desktops and smartphones, and we make it usable on an internet-enabled feature phone. You can see some examples here. Things like our e-learning, our habit tracking, our vouchering dashboards, our incentive programs. Through these tools, we're able to deliver deeper and more customized engagement than through some other mobile tools. But our target group don't need a smartphone. They just need an internet-enabled feature phone, which can cost as little as $11 US. Our mobile accessible websites are free, but our users do need to pay for the data they use from the mobile network operators. And so therefore, we design our platform and content to use very little data. For example, our Hygiene in the Home e-learning course for young mums and mums-to-be requires only 2.3 megabytes to complete in its entirety, including downloading the certificates and the badges at the end of the course. In comparison, if you were to spend an hour browsing Facebook website on your phone, it would normally require between 120 and 160 megabytes. To put some numbers into this for financial context, in Kenya, you can buy 1,000 megabytes of data for just over $1 US. We've also developed an ultra-low data version of the site as well, which can be selected to save our users an additional 40% of data. You can see the button to do this in the top right-hand corner of the screenshots here. These screenshots show the two versions. On the left, the normal view, and on the right, the ultra-low data view. In some contexts, our users want to have offline access to learning content. So we do make downloadable versions of our content in the form of PDFs or videos in these situations. One challenge that we keep in mind with this is that downloading content does require the user to have storage space on their mobile phone, whereas accessing it via our website does not require this. So we deliver nuanced, tailored, and localized learning experiences. And this is how we engage young people as active users and not as passive audiences. We design each of our websites using a human-centered design approach. And we always start with a user needs assessment, which helps us to understand and, of course, align our digital strategy with the target group's perspectives, their motivations, their preferences, the challenges they're facing, the technology they have access to, and importantly, their digital literacy. We engage young people with these interactive experiences, targeted messaging, and then hyper-localized content. So the look and feel of each site is very different depending on who our target audience is. The learning is broken down into bite-sized pieces, and in each section there are also interactive elements, for example, quizzes that encourage self-reflection and help people to track their knowledge acquisition, or certificates and badges that help them to track their progress and also act as an intrinsic motivation. And you can see some of these in the bottom right-hand corner, these badges. Learning activities can be completed at the learner's own pace. They can come back anytime that's convenient for them to pick up where they left off and progress their learning when it suits them. The digital nature of our work means that we can generate real-time digital data, and we analyze this alongside behavioral analytics and user feedback, and this helps us to implement rapid, data-driven, iterative design and continuously improve what we're doing. For example, if we see that course completion rates are low in some areas or courses aren't being completed fully, we can dig into why that is and improve. As we talked about earlier in the presentation, knowledge is really only the first step. And so our bite-sized learning is also complemented by confidence building and motivational tools that help young people to turn this knowledge into action in their lives. So here you can see a few screenshots of different examples, including moderated peer learning discussion groups where young people can share advice, stories, photos, and more with each other, as well as motivational tools like daily challenges, pledges like the hand washing pledge, and the Action Reporting Center where young people can report back the real-world actions they've taken. And in all these ways, we encourage real-world actions based on the learning that they've acquired. And then finally, in terms of the approaches that we use in these low bandwidth areas, one of the major barriers that faces people of all age groups actually in low bandwidth environments is often limited digital skills and digital literacy. In fact, according to GSMA, 3.4 billion people live in areas that are covered by mobile broadband networks that don't use mobile internet. A significant reason for this is because of a lack of digital skills leading to a usage gap with digital tools. So our platform has digital skills tools integrated onto the site so that our users can build their digital literacy and use the site effectively. And you can see here just a couple of screenshots of our how-to guides on some of our current sites for young mothers and mothers-to-be and for healthcare professionals. So now we'll just move on to a few of the results. We've worked with youth across multiple thematic areas like sexual and reproductive health rights, HIV/AIDS, youth empowerment, civic engagement. But here I'll just talk about the results of 3 of our youth-facing projects. Firstly, I'll just touch on I Am Purple, which was funded by DFID under the Voices for Change program. and led by a consortium which was led by Palladium. Purple promoted gender equality among young people across Nigeria, using interactive and engaging experiences to change young people's perceptions and to combat harmful social norms. In addition to the tools that we've already talked about earlier in the presentation, I Am Purple had closed women-only digital safe spaces where women could come together in an environment moderated by our female community managers to share, discuss, learn, and connect with each other. You can see here some of the key results of the program. We had 7 million visits to our website, with young people building their knowledge via the e-learning academy and peer learning and connecting with each other via the social network. Young people also reported back on the platform some of the real-world actions that they had taken. So we had 70,000 young people reporting that they had taken real-world or digital actions after spending time on the site. And our qualitative surveys also found that after spending time on the site, 90% of young people felt more willing to speak up against violence against women and girls. eSmart was used interactive learning journeys, peer learning forums, content like articles from experts and Q&A sessions to build the financial literacy, numeracy, entrepreneurship, employment, and life skills of young people across 7 African countries. We had over 1 million educational quizzes that were taken. We had over 400,000 visits to the site every month. And about 2 million young people shared their life experiences and their ideas via the peer learning platform. In the section of the platform called SmartBiz, young people actually also reported increased knowledge and confidence about starting their own business. And just the final results example is UAFIA. UAFIA is funded by Transform, which is a public-private partnership between the UK government and Unilever, and it provides nutrition, health, and hygiene household-level practices of young mothers and mothers-to-be in Kenya. In addition to the tools we've already talked about, UAFIA also offers young women e-vouchers, so they can access discounted health, hygiene, and nutrition goods to drive demand and encourage changes in these behaviours. So far, we've had over 9,400 women who have registered on UAFIA, and almost 3,000 of them have completed the 10-day hand washing challenge, which encourages hand washing with soap via fun daily challenges and self-reporting. We have an 86% completion rate across all the 6 courses, and 88% of the responses in the post-course knowledge assessments were correct. Women have also reported feeling more confident in their ability to make a well-balanced breakfast for their children and increasing their practice of hand washing with soap. When COVID-19 hit in Kenya, we actually mobilized and trained many of these young women via UAFIA to become volunteer behavior change ambassadors who engage people who don't have a mobile phone, and this helped us to spread the impact of our platform into the offline space. These young women conduct outreach activities that encourage vulnerable members of their community to practice health and hygiene behaviours that combat COVID-19, such as hand washing with soap, social distancing, and wearing a mask. So far, we've had over 1,500 women becoming behaviour change ambassadors, creating a grassroots movement of young women to protect themselves, their families, and their communities from COVID-19. These women also reported their COVID-19 prevention actions back via the platform, with over 9,100 actions reported so far, including things such as installing hand washing stations in public places and teaching their neighbours about hand washing with soap. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Thank you so much for sharing this wonderful work that you're doing. I'm going to now invite Iñaki. Iñaki, you're connected, right? Welcome.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Namita. Thank you, team, for inviting me, and congratulations for the excellent webinar. Congratulations to the panelists for the great initiatives, and to the team for the very relevant knowledge brief. No? I will try to summarize in less than 7 minutes to have enough time for the Q&A some of the general topics, and maybe provide a couple of examples more from things that we are seeing here from the EdTech team. Well, first, as we know, the pandemic has made more evident than ever the importance of improving connectivity, but at the same time has provided us with a wealth of experience to adopt different digital learning solutions that can be adapted to different contexts, in environments with no connectivity, environments with limited connectivity, and where the access is maybe not reliable. And this is great, no? Because as you were mentioning at the beginning, getting connectivity should be an objective, but it is probably a mid-term, long-term objective. But we need to find today short-term solutions to respond to the educational needs of those students that are in remote areas, that they don't have access to connectivity, and we need to start reducing the digital gaps today. Now we hear two great examples on how to do that. In the knowledge brief, you mentioned a couple more, but I think that it is also important to highlight that not every low-tech intervention is going to be effective. No? In that way, low-tech is useful, low-tech is necessary, but it's not enough. So technology alone doesn't work, no? And we need to have in place other systems. We need to have monitoring and evaluation. We need to engage the community. Well, we need to have an active intervention that is thoughtfully designed. And along these lines, we in the tech team, we published recently a strategy. I copied the link before in the chat, where we mentioned 5 principles that we think that are aligned, that help us to do so. No, I will mention just 3 because I think that they mirror quite well the experiences that we hear today. The first one is ask why. No? So all these policies, all these interventions, they need to have a clear purpose, a clear strategy, and a vision of that desired educational change that we are envisioning. The second one, really relevant to the topic today, is design and act at the scale and for all. So the 2 examples from today, they show that this intervention should be flexible, should be user-centered, and with an emphasis in equity and inclusion, no? for scalability. And the third one is about engaging the ecosystem. So we know that ministries of education, they cannot do it alone. It is important to engage the whole stakeholder, reaching the community, as we hear from Save the Children, reaching to the youth. No? Well, the example of Everyone Mobile, again, I really like the optimization part, no? And how accessible and adaptable it is, no? The fact that it's accessible for the future forms and highlighting the importance of the localization and the contextualization, I think that it's critical, as well as the human-centered aspect of this intervention, no? That is crucial with those motivational components, with the feedback, with the iterative process, no? And in the skills to succeed example, and specifically on the mobile training center, I think that it's a great example on how we can actually address those digital divides, how we can develop the digital skills, even in those contexts with no connectivity, no? And this approach of providing that service at the doorstep of the more marginalized, I think that it's great. And it's also a good reminder of trying to center this intervention on the most vulnerable, on the most marginalized. We know, though, we all know that often this connectivity and technology solutions, they focus first and they benefit first the most privileged learners, and only later these strategies try to address these disadvantaged learners. And this shouldn't be like this. No, we should address this from the very beginning. Now, these were just 2 examples of the many that due to COVID-19, no, many youth employment programs, but also educational programs in general, they shifted from face-to-face to virtual, to blended, to hybrid learning. In a project that we were developing in the tech team, it happened the same. In a project that we were starting in Colombia to develop skills, 20% of the skills for youth. Right when we were starting, we needed to change everything to virtual, and I can mention a little bit more about that later. But again, it is tricky to find the best combination of technology, no? And I just wanted to mention 3 distinctive features that we need to take into account. One is that a little bit aligned with that matrix that you showed at the beginning. No? One is the time, or the when, synchronous and asynchronous. The second is the where, the space, no, face-to-face or virtual. And the third one is a very important one. It's around the how, the interaction, no? Interaction both in terms of the direction of the communication, but also the type of engagement, no? And you highlighted in the paper the importance of trying to use multi-channel or multimodal strategies when possible. So rather than focusing on the lack of access to technology, that it's a well-documented problem that we all are aware of, I think that the challenge is to address the relevance of the tools that we choose, no? And the importance of taking into account that different edtech solutions can be used as complementary. Just two examples. One in Peru. In Peru now, we are working with the ministry to address the digital divide, and they are doing a very flexible approach. On the one hand, to focus on those with connectivity, and on the others, for those in remote areas. As you know, Peru is a very complex geography. So what the ministry is now designing is trying to implement local clouds with content servers that would enable the functions of the ministry's platform in areas without internet. Of course, the more flexible the approach, the more difficult the logistic is, but I think that it's an interesting example. The second one is in several states in Brazil that, again, they combine different types of technologies, like using educational TV with mobile apps. In this case, they were free of charge. No, these mobile apps were zero rating apps and enable this communication between teacher and students at interaction. And the final example is from a country that had previous experience working remotely. It's the case of Sierra Leone, where they had a learning radio program that worked during the Ebola crisis. So they were able to reactivate it very quickly and combine it with phone calls. So finally, again, COVID has highlighted the urgency of providing broadband connectivity to all, but as we mentioned at the beginning, it is critical today to ensure that the youth, the young students that are in remote areas are not left behind. Thank you again for the experiences, and back to you, Nanita.
Thank you so much, Iñaki. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that cautionary tale that, that at the end of the day, it's really about what tools you're using and, using multimodal tools. I mean, that just reminded me, another one of our partners in Rwanda, Educate, actually also used this. Like the moment COVID hit, they immediately switched to radio for a lot of the sort of broadcasting of lessons, combined with SMS messages where teachers sent prompts, like a question or testing question after the lesson, and then combined with some phone calls, one-to-one phone calls for sort of more direct hand-holding of the students. So multimodal, and also that this is not going to replace perhaps even the importance of face-to-face in some cases. So I think that was a really good point, and the caveats that you laid out were completely agree with you. There are some questions mostly for you, Monica and Atik. And I think that example that you showed us of the bus was really interesting. So one of the questions, and that struck me too, was how scalable is this? What is the reach of this? I mean, I thought you said you've done this in Chittagong, if I'm not mistaken, right? So maybe there are a few villages, but how can you think of this model as a scalable model? How would you scale this up to maybe hills, the hilly areas, and other villages? And then the second question is about, have you incorporated access for people with disability? Is there something in your design where you might particularly have, you've adapted something so that people with disability can also join? And the third exactly is about the cost. Like, how much does it cost to do this in a particular village if we have to think about scale, and how would that weigh against other alternatives, perhaps? So over to you, Atik and Monica.
Do you want to take the first question about scalability? Oh, you're muted, Atik.
regarding scalability, we are actually thinking and doing something at the same time. Regarding scalability, actually, what is happening in Bangladesh, we think that these are the bus models, meaning that if you, and I can go with the cost part as well, that when you introduce a bus, it does not mean that you have to make a big buses with heavy equipments, with very design or like this. In the rural remote areas in Bangladesh, you can use small vans that can also enter into the remote areas very easily. The main part I think here is that how we can go ensure access to the most vulnerable children, those who does not have any access internet or any kind of facilities at their home. So this is one thing regarding the accessibility and scalability. Scalability, we just start the program, but we are very much close with our government of Bangladesh, that is the Ministry of Education, and Ministry of Education also take many initiatives through different projects in Bangladesh. So we have a alliance with the Ministry of Education High Authority representatives. So when we have started this program, we also discuss with them that how we can scalable, definitely with the support of government. This is very important part, that how far we can scale these modalities, not where it is a small van can be work, where it is a big bus can work, or any kind of mobile structure, the training center shipments. So these are the thinking that we have already started with the government. So in that way, we think that scalable could be happen, and very clear picture can be get after more than a year or like this. Monica, you can add.
Yeah, thank you, Atik. I think just adding to what Atik said, we just started with this model. We started at the beginning of the year. And so when it comes to the third question about cost, and I think we are going to know more once we operate for a certain period of time. But what we do see as an advantage is that there is a lot of demand, that there is a lot of excitement, and kids are joining the trainings. So, so we think that when it comes to cost per beneficiary, we can do an analysis and get a sense of, compared to a static lab, which is what we had previously, I should say, and we can make an assessment of, the cost per beneficiary compared to a static lab, and vis-a-vis this approach of bringing the training to the doorstep of the youth. And then I want to mention a response for the question about youth with disabilities. Atik, I believe there aren't right now youth with disabilities that are attending our program in Bangladesh, right? Okay. You're muted again. Hold on.
There are disability children with disability, youth with disability participate in our program, in our training program. We do have facilities for them, and as well as just to incorporate with that we are also doing a study. A study is going on with Bangladesh part, where the barriers is not only dropout children barriers, but barriers due to power, due to gender, due to another identity, due to disability, all kind of barriers we are trying to figure out, and for that we will take that specific intervention to overcome the barrier to participate in this mobile band training.
And what I would like to add to that is that we do have a program in Indonesia that is fully focused on youth with disabilities. So we are providing the same, so similar training on life skills, digital skilling, and that those trainings are fully adapted for youth with physical disabilities, that youth that are blind, the youth that have an hearing impairment or have a mental disability. So we have made a full range of adaptations. So the programs are really meant to respond to the needs of those children, and we can draw from those learnings and use them in our program in Bangladesh. So if anybody is interested to learn about the adaptations that we have made for programs for youth with disabilities, we would be happy to share that too.
Yeah, there's a question about somebody wanting to know the name of your program in Indonesia.
It's also Skills to Succeed, and is being focused on youth with disabilities. For the last 3 years, we have been working on only serving youth with disabilities. So happy to share more information.
Also, I would encourage all of you to put more questions. We have just a couple minutes. I had one more question for you, Atik. I was thinking about a challenge that you raised, and that made me think, that if some of these young kids who are coming to this mobile training center, if they don't have access to this at home, what is your experience in terms of, like, are they really able to learn this? Because this is a skill where, unless you use it, you lose it, right? I mean, you just coming to a couple hours, is that enough? Or maybe it is. I mean, what has your experience been? Does it generate enough interest so that they want to keep coming back? Or do you find that they've sort of forgotten what they learned yesterday,
This is an interesting question. I can just, in short, I can say that we have program with youth, and they have got the web design, graphics design, customer care, finance and accounting training, who are dropped out from grade 8 education. And we finally able to place them in jobs. Now we see that their 6 months training or 3 months training, we also thought at first stage that how much they will learn and how these learnings will come into real life, that they can able to utilize it. So here in the soft skill and digital skills, so far our 1 and near about 2 months experience, we see it is not that they have to remember everything. That is the self-management, self-efficacy, problem solving, higher order skills. Then the digital part, the how they will behave in the internet world, how they. It is not that every sessions, we have 48 sessions here, but it is not about the memorizing the things that they will learn. Most importantly, actually, we think that what at the end of the session, what they should remember, 3-4 main key areas that they should remember, so that even though if they see a mobile on their hand, what they will think. If they see a laptop or computer, how they can open it, how they can operate it. So these learnings, not everything I feel also that they need to remember, but they need to be adopted in such a way that in next opportunities, he or she feel confident enough to utilize it. So it's not everything I believe yet that they need to remember everything. Novita.
Yeah, no, thank you. We've almost run out of time, but one quick question for you, Jocelyn, about the learning management system that you use, and maybe you can just say that in like a couple of seconds.
I'm actually just going to hand over to my colleague Yolandi, who is our Director of Digital Engagement and uses this all the time. Yolandi, would you mind a couple of minutes on that?
Couple seconds.
Couple of seconds.
Seconds. Hi, Yolandi here. Namita, sorry, can you repeat your question?
There's a question about what is the learning management system that you use for your online mobile?
The learning management system is part of our platform. So we have built our own technology where we can build online courses, we can deliver habit tracking tools and digital vouchers that can be sent to consumers and redeemed through informal retailers via SMS. So it all lives on our own platform, and the technology already exists, which makes it really easy for us to kind of put together an online course and launch it rapidly with the youth.
Okay. No, thank you. That helps. I feel like we've run out of time, and I do want to make sure that we wrap up on time. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining. Just two quick things. I know that some of you wanted to know more details about the other solutions that we described that I put on a slide in the beginning. It's all on our in the short brief. It's just 7 to 8 pages. It's on our website, and I think Sonamika shared it in the chat function as well. So have a look at that because there are some specific questions on those other solutions that we talked about. The second thing I wanted to say is that in S4YE, we are constantly looking for new solutions. Some of them may be small, some of them may be at scale. So if there are other ways that you know that teams have addressed this issue that we haven't covered in our notes, please could you share with us? Because I think we all have a shared agenda here about trying to find practical solutions that actually can be incorporated in programs. So thank you very much for spending your morning with us, or maybe afternoon for some people. Thank you so